Hey everyone, I'm Jaspreet Singh. I'm Microsoft Identity and Security Engineer. On this channel, I build real Microsoft Entra ID labs to show how actually they behave, not just the documents say they should. In this video, I will show you how to configure Microsoft Entra ID protection, alerts, and notification for risky users and risky sign-in. If you have enabled Microsoft Entra ID protection, that's great, but the real question comes, who is actually watching the alerts? Because in most environments, risky users and risky sign-ins are happening and nobody finds out until days later. Welcome back to my Identity Protection Lab series on f11.ca. I publish the same labs on f11.ca as well. In this lab, I will cover how we can enable notifications for risky users and risky sign-ins, add custom email recipients to receive email alerts, and lastly, validate everything in the portal. Why this matters, why we need to talk about alert email notification for risky users and risky sign-in. What I have experienced in most environments, IT admins specifically and owners, business owners, they go with my ID P2 license. In real MSP environment, I have experienced companies go with real identity protection, but alerts are not configured to receive notification. This means Microsoft can detect the alert, but since admin notifications are not configured, no one in the IT admin or any company will know the user risk state. Let's say some suspicious activity is going on and Microsoft has reported the activity at the user reported at risk. Since no notification emails were set up, so no one will know whether user is reported at risk or no, and any remediation action needs to be taken by conditional access policy or admin needs to validate. So since no one reported, no ticket was opened, no one will check the logs. So that's a big gap. That's why I want to explain this, why it is important to configure email notifications as enable notification for risky users and risky sign-in logs. Before we configure notifications, let's talk about prerequisites. The first thing is you either need Microsoft Entra ID P2 license or Microsoft 365 E5 license. If you have one from both, you can enable the identity protection. You can deploy the identity protection, and you need need global admin to configure permissions or log in the or open the identity protection dashboard, or security admin. However, note, if you don't see identity protection in your tenant, the first thing to check is always licensing. Make sure you have right subscription, so you have the correct license added to your tenant, and you can verify from the going to the billing and subscription and check whether license is added. So now let's start the demo. As you can see, I've logged into Microsoft 365 admin portal. Now let's go to the identity and protection dashboard. As you can see, I can see identity protection dashboard. This means I have the correct license assigned to the user. However, if you're not able to see this dashboard, this identity protection field, this means you either you have not assigned the license or you don't have a security permission to check that. So now let's validate. Now let's go to dashboards and notifications, and as you can see, user at risk detected. Okay, this is one of the security admin groups that I've created, and I recommend to everyone that create one group. Let me try to create a security group or distribution list and add those the list of security admins, or going to the user panel, exchange admin center, groups, distribution list. You can create add a group. Distribution is fine. So let's say I'm going to want it alerts, sign owners. Let's say I'll assign it to myself. Members, and I'm going to assign it to myself again. And I'm going to change to this one, and let's see. Alerts at f11.c is created. Now, before I assign it to, let's validate. And I can see alerts at f11.c is created. Now let's go back to the identity protection again. Identity protection here. Now I can add one more email address, alerts at f11labs.ca. Perfect. And medium risk. So what happens is, I've configured any medium risk will trigger the alert, and it will be sent to these both email addresses. And these are security, these are the distribution lists, which means all the users which are added to these distribution lists will receive an email alert. I'm going to hit save. The settings are saved now. Sorry, I forgot to mention that this is the same place where you set up the notification for users at risk, whether it is user high risk alert or sign in risk alert. This is the same setting that applies to both, which means when you set up alert, and my recommendation is always go with medium and above, which means medium and high risk alert. If you set medium and high will trigger an alert and will receive email alerts on these email addresses. Weekly digest. Now there is a weekly digest option, and I recommend enabling this as well because it gives you a summary view of risky sign-ins, risky users, and detections. It's not a replacement for real-time alerts. but it's excellent for reporting and visibility. Now the big question comes, how do we validate this? Because here the risk detections are not always instant. Sometimes it can take 10 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, and the best way to trigger is signing from a new location, using a VPN, using a brand new device, or unusual sign-in behavior. But even if you don't trigger a risk right away, you can still validate configuration by checking the notification page is saved, the recipients are correct, and the thresholds are correct. So you can always go to identity protection and risk detection and confirm the tenant is actively monitoring. One best practice I want to mention, notifications are step one, and it's only one step. If we want to protect our identities, we need to complete the process by setting risk-based conditional access policies to remediate the action if there is any suspicious activity on any identity or any user. Which means, let's say if you receive any medium or high alert, you will be enforced to change your password immediately when you try to log in. And once the password has been changed, the alert will change from at risk to remediated. Now you have configured alerts and notification for risky users and risky sign-ins in Microsoft Entra ID protection. Now let's jump back to the slide. If you found this helpful, subscribe, because I'm publishing this entire identity protection lab series step by step. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys.